So Don, I heard you've been playing a lot of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Nintendo Switch. Is that correct?
Yes, I've actually finished the entirety of the game now again on Nintendo Switch.
Well, that is awesome, because I've got some questions for you. Most importantly, is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze still one of the best platformers ever made?
Yes, it's now even funkier.
That's what I like to hear. Alright, so in case you don't know, this is very much the same game as released on the Wii U a few years ago, but now, as Don just hinted at, it is now funkier because there is a whole new funky mode where you play as the funky ape himself, Funky Kong. I'm trying to figure out all the ways I can say funky more than I already have, but...
Welcome to the funky drinking game.
Exactly. I think people are already wasted if that's the case.
Yeah, true.
So, Don, how is Funky Mode? Like, is it fun playing as him? I know Derek and Ash already played with him a little bit at PAX, but you went through the whole game basically as Funky, right? So how does it hold up playing as Funky? Because looking at, when they first revealed it, it looks like that's pretty much an easy mode, because this guy can do everything, right? He can breathe underwater, he can fly in the air, he has more hit points. So how does how does it feel when you're playing the game as this kind of like more easy, accessible character?
Well, first of all, it feels OP. It literally is the most OP thing ever put in a video game so far this year. Even
more than like Invincible Mario back in the 3D World games, I think, or 3D Land.
I mean, there are similarities, like the big downfall in both instances are of course pets. Right. But also, there's still a lot of momentum and platforming you need to do even in Funky Mode. You have more tools to make it more accessible, but you still have to do a lot of the things yourself. It's an easy mode, but it's also an easy mode in the game that was kind of challenging to begin with.
That's a good point. We should mention the fact that in case you didn't play Tropical Freeze, this game was hard as hell originally. So even making it quite a bit easier than that doesn't necessarily make it a cakewalk, I'm guessing, because you still have to platform quite a bit, I'm guessing, obviously.
Oh yeah, I still died plenty. It's not like the game has become super easy till the end of time. It's like, no, there are definitely differences in how you approach the platforming, especially when you look at it from a standpoint of how you approach the levels now, because you have to double jump and you have more time to adjust your movement. So it will result in less deaths, but it still means that you have to do all of the movements yourself, because there are still plenty of bits, and if you still can't adjust yourself that properly, you're still kind of screwed.
Right. So how does Funky feel himself to play? Does he fit right in with the other Kongs, like whether you're playing as Donkey Kong with one of the partner characters like Dixie? Does he feel like, is he as fun to use, or is he maybe more fun to use? He does have fun in his name, so...
Well, he is kind of a standalone character, especially in single player mode, because no other Kong will play along with him.
But that's because he has basically all the attributes of those Kongs built into one, right?
Yeah, well, except for basically the pogo stick, which is still the most fun thing in that video game. Instead, you have now a double jump. In general, I must say that that playing as Funky Kong is a lot of fun, especially when you go to the traits that are now endless, especially the rolls and the corkscrews on the water. What I had the most fun doing is sort of force my way through those levels with the quickest move that an ape has to offer, like doing the double jump, then flying a little bit, landing on an enemy, using that momentum forward. That's a lot of fun, and that's what I like about Funky Kong. Even though I played this game like 2 to 3 times, he changed up the dynamic of the levels a lot, because the way that you approach Funky Kong feels very different than all the other Kongs in the game.
So did you have as much fun playing as Funky as you did with Donkey Kong and any of the other characters before? Or, let me put it this way, if you weren't playing it for the purpose of a review to see how Funky Kong stacked up, do you think you would play through the whole game as Funky Kong like you did?
Likely, yeah. Okay. I mean, I already played for the game once, so for me, well, multiple times actually, but I already played for the game once, so for me, the experience of seeing something new is kind of important here, and that's what sort of Funky Kong delivers on. He doesn't make the levels completely new, and it isn't as magical as the first time, don't get me wrong, but I had a lot more fun playing as him, considering I already played through the game and wanted to see something different to do within these levels. The fact that Funky Kong is so overpowered, has so much abilities and has so much to him, actually makes it a lot more fun and interesting for me.
So when I was talking to Ash from his playtime at PAX with the game, he mentioned that Funky's kind of aerial move, where like he uses a hoverboard to kind of fly in the air, he mentioned it kind of threw him off, like threw off the pace of the game a little bit, but it felt like an air brake. Now he mentioned that's probably just because he's not used to it yet, but I was wondering how that felt to you.
Here's the thing. I feel that I use the double jump more than his aerial, because the aerial just slows down things a lot, and the same goes for like stopping on spikes. Like, it's cool to have, and it's an additional safety net for those who need it, like a younger player.
Right.
But it slows down momentum a lot in the game, those two. Because you take it slow, you make your next move, and then move onward. And you kind of slowed and cooled down to a hold almost, to take that time to soak everything in and see what you are doing next. And I think those two moves in particular didn't get that much use out of me. I used it in one level that was basically all spikes to see how far I would come. And yeah, obviously I beat the level without any questions asked. At the same time though, it made the level a whole lot slower.
I can see that. So will you say, so when I played the game, I primarily used Dixie, and I thought her ability to fly in the air felt really good.
Well, Diddy and Dixie's flying moves are a lot faster.
Right.
Like, Funky's is also more meant as your moment to re-get yourself and see where you have to land to move onward. That was also the purpose of him, so I totally get what they're going for, and it's totally fine for what it is, but I only use it as sort of last resort.
Especially with how much of a hazard pits still are, I imagine.
Oh yeah, of course, I still got good use out of it, I just don't think it's the way I would like quickly go through the game as much as I possibly can. Especially if you're going through the game for a second time. For a first time it doesn't really matter. Maybe it's nicer to use that to get a few Kong letters or a few puzzle pieces that way. Which I do see how it could get a lot of use of those kind of people.
Right. So beyond the actual gameplay differences or the moment-to-moment differences, we were talking before, and it sounds like there are a few other differences with the game too. Like for instance, I know when you go to Funky's shop, we actually posted a gameplay video of this already, which you took from the Dutch Comic Con, where, because in the original version of the game, it was Funky Kong running the shop, but that wouldn't quite work if you're playing as Funky Kong. So they replaced it with Funky's bird pet, I guess. And he has some little funny, clever dialogue, and as part of that, he gives you a discount on your own items, which I guess is nice, but still kind of a jerkish thing to do. But beyond that, though, you were telling me that you can now use items mid-level too, right? So could you tell me a little bit more about that and how that works in game?
So Funky mode doesn't end with Funky Kong. There are some other differences regardless of the character you use. One of the most important things is here, you can use your inventory at any given time.
So even outside of Funky mode?
No, in Funky mode. Like, before you start the game, actually, you have to pick if you pick normal or Funky mode for the duration of your save file.
Okay.
So you have to make a separate save file for regular mode if you really want to use that. Funky mode allows you to use your inventory at any given time. You can do it in front of, before you start a level, just like the regular game. But also while playing, which basically means you press plus, go to your inventory, select an item, select done, and it's activated. If it's a usage item like the balloons or the protective shield, it's just there and it will appear next to your health bar.
Okay.
If you are playing as Donkey Kong and just want Diddy Kong or Dixie Kong or Cranky Kong, you have a barrel there, it will just immediately appear on his back without any questions. You can use your usage items at any given moment now in Funky mode, which makes the game a whole lot easier.
Right.
I gave it a few shots. The most interesting example is how I fell into a pit, quickly went into the inventory, selected the balloons that prevent you from falling into pits. I unpaused the game, fell into a pit, and it immediately brought me back up to the surface.
That is pretty handy.
Yeah, so if you have problems with those deaths, that's your new option now. Just select those balloons 5 times during a very hard level, and you're good.
Right, so even pits can be turned into a non-issue if you really want to in funky mode, it sounds like.
Yeah, it can, but it's also, you still have to buy them and what have you.
Right.
So if you're not very good, you're not likely ranking up a lot of those banana coins.
So are there any other differences you noticed when playing as Funky Kong, or does that pretty much cover it?
In the original game, you were sort of forced to collect all of the Kong letters in a singular go. Now it just saves them, you can go back to it, and you can do it in multiple runs if you so desire.
So if you grab an O, that will always be with you. When you go back into the level, you just have to grab the other ones, being K, N, and G.
Yeah, nice. Basically.
Alright, that's pretty... I mean, that's actually a pretty good change, I think. Because that can be a little bit annoying if you're, you know, a completionist.
If you're a completionist of sort, it might be very helpful for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically for those who are, once again, not too skilled with a game like this. And there are plenty of people who are not good in platformers. Especially with a platformer that has this kind of difficulty.
And how about the cutscenes? Because I believe, looking at the trailers that they've shown off, the opening cutscene is identical, right? Like, Funky Kong hasn't been put in there retroactively added, so to speak.
The animated cutscenes are the same as the Wii U game.
Okay.
I would say that there are some minor differences, like in the idle animations, and we've posted video of that before.
So even though they didn't change the animated cutscenes, they did, however, update the in-game cutscenes, though, right? So, like, if you go to a boss fight, Funky Kong has his own intro, separate from the other characters.
It has its own sass to him, which I really, really like.
You gotta have it. Funky's gotta bring the sass.
Hey, yes. Especially, which one was it? The monkey boss. He was playing tricks with each of the characters. We're throwing a banana his way, and then he sees this banana and then jumps to it, and then it gets thrown away. He is like, whatever, man. And I love that so much of his animation. It was so good.
With as OP as Funky Kong is, he's got nothing to be worried about, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So how's the game look overall on Nintendo Switch? Because I did a quick head-to-head comparison, and as far as I can tell, it's identical in every way besides Funky Kong, except for one area, because it appears the game now runs at 1080p as opposed to 720p in the original game. So could you see that difference? Like, did it look noticeably sharper to you as you were playing, and did you notice any other differences?
Oh yeah, it definitely looked sharper. Outside of that, I don't think there's many differences. The original Wii U game was already a well-optimized video game.
For sure, it was a great-looking game.
Oh yeah, it's just more optimized now, which is the only thing that could potentially do. If you're playing in handheld mode, it kind of looks similar to how it was on the television on Wii U. And it's just the same great experience that you can take with you.
Right.
But yeah, outside of that, it just works that way, and it just works well. Another thing I'm outside of that really impressed by is how well it plays with a singular Joy-Con. Honestly, I don't play a lot of games with a singular Joy-Con because I just don't necessarily want to.
Well, yeah, why would you if you have a full controller?
I mean, there's definitely a choice if you are playing on the go. And I had the opportunity to do so yesterday with a friend. We just wanted to play a little bit of co-op. And we just popped the Joy-Cons out, and it's very easy to just do with one stick, a couple of buttons, and using SL or ZL or ZR to grab. So it's very easy in setup, and it works really well for that Joy-Con. And you can also use the motion to roll if you really, really want to, which I don't necessarily like that, but it's an option at least.
They won't cover all their bases, but yeah, I agree. Why would you ever want to use motion for that? So it worked in Donkey Kong Country Returns, but I'm beyond that now.
Basically, it has the same functionality as a button, so...
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the game just being more optimized in general, and we already did a comparison of the load times, too, with the game booting up especially quick compared to the Wii U one. But how was it playing through the full game? Like, did you notice and continue to appreciate those quicker load times, or did it make much of a difference to you playing through compared to the Wii U?
There's definitely a slight difference on the television. Not too massive, but a decent one.
Okay.
I didn't see much of a difference in handheld mode, to be honest. I think they had to make some choices to make it run well in handheld mode, which it really does. Like, that game looks really sharp in handheld mode, but I think also they, considering the clock speed, they needed to run a little bit slower. So the load times will take a little bit longer, but it doesn't diminish the fact in quality. Well,
Don, I think I covered all of my questions. Is there anything else you want to tell us about your time with Tropical Freeze on the Switch?
No, I played through the entirety of the day. I played as Funky Kong, and I had a good time playing as him. Once again, he's pretty OP, but I kind of like it that way too.
You know, that's kind of what I figured. Like, I mean, so I haven't played it myself with Funky Kong yet, of course. I feel like for one's first playtime, for the first attempt through, I would recommend playing it as it was made originally with the 3 Kongs. But if you're having trouble or you want a new way of playing, Funky Kong seems like a fun way to go about it, because it's not just, it doesn't seem like just an easy mode, but it is a different way of playing at the same time. And that's kind of cool. Like, I appreciate that. Like, he is a whole new character.
But what I hope is, and this is maybe something for further down the line, I hope we see somebody do a full run of solely using Funky Kong.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, you're definitely gonna see that.
Yeah, and I would love to see that, because his optimization options for certain routes and paths across the levels could be really incredible.
Yeah. You know what it kind of reminds me of, actually? A little bit of playing Sonic 3 with Sonic and Knuckles lashed on. With how you can play...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with how you can play through old levels with a new character that they weren't quite necessarily designed for. Or maybe Sonic 2 would be a better example. Where you can use Knuckles in levels he definitely wasn't designed for. And it allowed you to do, like, new cool things you couldn't, you know, that weren't even envisioned by the original creators.
That's definitely a good comparison. Yeah, I kind of agree with that for sure.
So, final question, and I don't know how... yeah, I think we can go into this. It's not a review, obviously. But my question to you is, based on your playtime, would you pick up this game yourself, having already owned the Wii U version? Like, is there enough there to warrant picking up again, or would you recommend it more for people who haven't played it originally?
That's the difficult part here, right? It really depends on how much you really want to replay Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze again, because outside of the Funky Kong, there hasn't really much changed. Like, all of the items are still in the same locations. There are not any significant changes to how the game plays and how the game comes together.
Right.
It just really depends on how much you want to replay that game, and if you are willing to buckle up for another payment for Funky Mode. I mean, it's definitely more for people who never played it the first time.
Right.
But people who really love that game and want to play through it anyway will likely have a good time playing with Funky Kong for sure.
That makes sense. That's about what I expected. So, and hey, if you haven't played the original game, just knowing that it holds up still, I mean, obviously it still holds up. If you haven't played it before, you need to play it now is my point, because this game was fantastic on Wii U, and it sounds at least marginally better on the Switch. So, Don, if people want to hear more about your thoughts in general, where can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me at Nintendan, which is NINTENDAAN.
And you'll find a link to that in the description below, as well as my own Twitter at Andre Seegers. And with that, I think we're about done here. So thank you for watching, and if you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well at GameXplain. You can find links to those in the description below as well. And with that, we'll catch you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.